The sound of roaring motorcycles usually makes people step back, hold their breath, or lock their doors. It is a sound associated with fear, danger, and men you are told never to trust. But on that warm afternoon, cutting through the open highway like thunder, that sound became the beginning of a moment no one who witnessed it would ever forget. The road stretched endlessly under a clear blue sky, bordered by dry grass and a few scattered trees bending gently in the breeze. Cars passed occasionally, most drivers lost in their own thoughts, their own problems, their own destinations. And then, rising above the hum of engines and tires, came a sound that did not belong to the road at all. It was small, broken, and full of pain. A child's cry, high, desperate, and trembling, as if the world had suddenly become too big and too cruel for someone far too young to face it alone. Before we go any further, let me ask you something. If you believe that kindness can come from the most unexpected places, that people deserve second chances, and that humanity still exists even where we least expect it, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. The little girl stood near the edge of the road, her tiny body shaking, her face streaked with tears and dust. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Her shoes were mismatched, one lace undone, and her small backpack hung crookedly from one shoulder. She looked around as if searching for someone who never came, her eyes wide with fear every time a car rushed past without stopping. The world, to her, must have felt loud, fast, and terrifyingly empty. Then the motorcycles appeared. A group of riders, leather jackets dark against the sunlight, heavy boots, patches sewn proudly onto their backs. Hell's Angels. The name alone was enough to make most people cross the street. Conversations stopped. Drivers slowed just enough to stare. Fear, judgment, and assumptions filled the air long before the bikes came to a halt. One by one, the engines died down. The sudden silence felt heavy, almost unreal. The men dismounted slowly, their movements calm, controlled, and deliberate. They were big men, weathered faces, beards touched with gray, eyes that had clearly seen too much of life. To an outsider, they looked intimidating, like a nightmare stepping off chrome and steel. To the little girl, they were just strangers, and strangers in her world at that moment were still scary. She took a step back, then another, her crying growing louder as panic took hold. She wrapped her arms around herself, as if trying to hold her own heart together. Every instinct told her to run, but she had nowhere to go. One of the riders noticed immediately. He froze mid-step, sensing her fear, and slowly raised his hands, palms open, a universal sign of peace. His face softened in a way that didn't match his rough appearance. He knelt down several feet away, lowering himself to her level, careful not to invade her space. The other riders stayed back, forming a loose circle, not as a threat, but as a shield from the road and the curious stares of passing cars. The girl's sobs echoed in the quiet space between them. She tried to speak, but her words came out broken, tangled in tears. She was lost. She had wandered away while her mother was distracted, and then suddenly everything looked unfamiliar. The road seemed endless. Every passing car felt like a reminder that no one saw her, no one stopped, no one cared. The man who had knelt down listened carefully, nodding gently, his eyes never leaving her face. He didn't rush her, he didn't interrupt. He simply stayed there, steady and patient, as if time itself had slowed down for this one small, fragile moment. Slowly her crying eased, replaced by shuddering breaths as she realized she wasn't being chased or yelled at. She was being heard. Another rider took off his leather jacket and laid it gently on the ground a few steps away, creating a barrier between the girl and the hot asphalt. Someone else pulled a bottle of water from a saddlebag and set it down, backing away again to give her control. These men, often painted as villains, moved with a tenderness that felt almost sacred. As minutes passed, the little girl's fear began to soften into confusion, and then into cautious trust. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, her small fingers still trembling. The road, which had once felt like a monster, now felt quieter, calmer, held together by the presence of these unexpected guardians. One of the riders contacted the local authorities, explaining calmly that they had found a lost child. He gave clear details, precise directions, and stayed on the line until help was on the way. There was no impatience, no annoyance, only a shared understanding that nothing mattered more in that moment than this child's safety. While they waited, one rider sat cross-legged on the ground a safe distance away and began to gently roll a small coin back and forth in his hands, letting the sunlight catch it. He didn't offer it to her, he just let her see it. Slowly, curiosity replaced fear. Her eyes followed the movement, her breathing steadier now. For the first time since she had been lost, she felt something other than terror. She felt calm. Cars continued to pass, drivers slowing down, shocked by the scene. Hell's Angels on the side of the road. A crying child. A moment that didn't fit the story people thought they knew. Some drivers shook their heads in disbelief. Others wiped their eyes, realizing how wrong assumptions can be. When the police car finally appeared in the distance, its lights flashing softly, relief washed over everyone. The little girl's shoulders relaxed. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she felt that the worst part was over. The riders stood up slowly, stepping back even further now, making space for the officers and the child to reunite with safety. And then came the moment that broke something open in everyone who saw it. As the police officer approached and gently reached for the girl's hand, she turned around. She looked at the men behind her, the big quiet men who had stopped their ride, the men who hadn't scared her away, who hadn't ignored her tears, who had stayed when the rest of the world rushed by. She took a few small steps back toward them and lifted her hand. It was a simple wave, small, shy, but full of something deeper than words. One of the riders nodded back, his jaw tight, his eyes shining in a way he probably hoped no one would notice. Another turned away, pretending to adjust his bike, wiping his face with the back of his glove. They didn't say anything. They didn't need to. The little girl was reunited with her mother minutes later. Her mother's scream of relief echoed across the roadside as she pulled her daughter into her arms, crying harder than the child ever had. She thanked everyone over and over, her voice shaking, her eyes wide with gratitude and disbelief. When she turned to thank the riders, her expression changed. Fear, then confusion, then something else entirely. Respect. The Hells Angels mounted their bikes again, engines rumbling back to life. They didn't wait for applause. They didn't look for praise. They didn't pose for photos. They simply nodded once, as if to say that this was just what anyone should do, and rolled back onto the road. As the sound of their motorcycles faded into the distance, something lingered behind. A shift, a crack in the wall of judgment people carry with them. A reminder that kindness does not wear a uniform, and goodness does not announce itself with soft voices and gentle faces. If this story has touched your heart even a little, if it made you feel something deep inside, please take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter, and your engagement helps keep them alive. Before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with just one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words mean more than you know. That little girl grew up with a memory she would never fully understand until much later in life. A memory of being lost, terrified, and alone, and of being saved by people the world told her to fear. And those riders rode on with something heavy and beautiful in their hearts, a reminder that even in a world full of labels, moments of pure humanity still exist. Sometimes angels don't have wings. Sometimes they ride loud motorcycles, wear leather jackets, and stop everything they're doing just to save a crying little girl.